time, your gateway to the world. A-F-R! American Freedom Radio. Give it to them.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's Monday. It's everybody's favorite day, November 18, 2013. Hope you had a beautiful Monday. It is so good to be here tonight and to have you all joining us here. Welcome. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And as you know, we have some holidays coming up here, so a couple little schedule changes here. We are normally joined by Sydney Ross Singer on the third Wednesday of the month, but we had to kind of do some switcheroos, so we are blessed to have him here with us tonight to continue that fascinating discussion about our sleep habits. And I really learned a lot last month in part one, so this is part two, and I just found out Soma won't be joining us tonight, but I hope she's doing wonderful, and I can't wait to hear from her next time. Anyways, Sydney is a medical anthropologist, the author of several groundbreaking and somewhat controversial health books. He is also the director of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease, located in Hawaii, where they have fresh pineapples. We were just talking about that before we came on the air, so, oh well. Anyways, his website is killerculture.com, but I'm afraid it's... Sydney, what's going on with your website? Welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Well, hi. It's great to be with you again, Christie.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on with the website. I didn't know it was having problems till you told me, so we're working on that. I sent my webmaster an email, and hopefully he'll work on that. But,
okay.
You know, this is going to be archived, so by the time you hear this, that's irrelevant because that's in current time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the site will be up when most people hear this show. Anyway, it's good to be back. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. It's fall, and I'm just, I was telling you before the show, or I was wondering if it was pineapple season, because for some reason here in Missouri, where, we don't get pineapples or so-called exotic fruit. In fact, we don't really have a huge selection of fruit at all. And I was really excited that I just got done juicing probably the best pineapple I've had here.
Oh, that's nice. So you mostly are used to apples and pears and the usual.
Well, they have those stuff.
Well, it's nice living in Hawaii because we do have like at least 2 or 3 seasons a year because of the climate and our amount of sunshine and so forth, and being in the tropics. So that's why we're self-sufficient for the most part out here. And it's a different lifestyle. You really get to know your food source when you're growing it yourself, and you make sure it's clean, and because you can't be sure of what you're getting in the grocery store.
You can't. Even if it does say organic or whatever, it's still... I don't know. You don't know unless you're actually going to the source or taking part in creating it, growing it, harvesting it yourself.
And, just because it says organic, it doesn't mean it's necessarily, free of toxins and poisons, because as long as the only difference between organic and conventional is that the conventional have synthetic pesticides and as opposed to non-synthetic. So you can use things like copper sulfate as a fungicide, which they do, and copper sulfate is very toxic, and that's organic because it's not chemically synthesized by man. It's a natural occurring poison. So it's still a poison. And I think people have gotten, people don't necessarily read the small print. They just sort of get the idea. I mean, if they're smart enough, they understand there's something toxic about the food, and they know that organic they're looking for something better, and they're hoping it's organic, and usually it is. But I always prefer the organic. I don't like eating conventional anything. I mean, you're eating poisons then. Organic, you have a hope that's not poison.
That is a little bit less. Yeah, because certain big corporations, they have different standards than, say, Sydney, if you were producing your food, say, for us here in Missouri, you, being, a regular person, would have more stringent rules as opposed to some of the other big corporations that can put organic on it and still be using things that people like us would not consider organic.
And the other thing, exactly, and the other thing is, there's a lot of credibility gap in the world today, which I think is another. We're talking in general. We're chatting about culture-caused disease, which is what we study. This is how our culture makes us sick, all these various ways, and oh God, I forgot where I was going with that. What was I? Okay, well, I was, oh yes, there was a recent news article that was talking about, you probably saw this, the purity, or rather impurity, of herbal supplements. And
Yeah.
Did you see that article?
I did not, but I am aware of companies that pretend to be natural and all of this, and then you look a little bit further and they actually have, the same amount of chemicals as other people do.
Well, this is even worse than that. I mean, this is like buying an herbal supplement that might be, say, it's echinacea, but in actuality, it isn't that at all. It's completely different, and it's completely adulterated. And what they did was they tested the purity to what is in this stuff, and they have this DNA fingerprinting that they can do to actually look for specific herbs that are supposed to be in there that they know the DNA fingerprint for these. So they could take these capsules and find out in this powder what's in this stuff, and they look for the DNA fingerprint of what's supposed to be in there, and like in 40% of the time it wasn't even there.
Wow.
People,
oh my gosh.
I mean, it was shocking. And it makes you think about your vitamins and all the things you're taking that are powders that you don't know what really constitutes those. And even then, the source may be, they're buying their stuff from somewhere. And I remember, a couple of years ago, the melamine crisis that was in the pet foods. Remember that? Well, melamine, this is in China, in Chinese imported products, meat-type products, and that they put into pet foods that increase the nitrogen, the amount of protein. And the way they test for protein in a pet food is they test for nitrogen, because nitrogen is in amino acids. Okay. And what they do is they have these other substances like melamine, which has nitrogen in it, but it is not an amino acid, and it's toxic. It can kill your kidneys, and it can kill you. And they actually contaminated these alleged protein sources with melamine to boost the nitrogen and make it look like they were higher in protein. And these were then going into all sorts of pet foods in the U.S., including high brand names that were like, supposed premium, you pay a lot of money for type dog food and cat foods. And so it was like you would have thought these were pure quality ingredients. The problem is, if anybody is outsourcing any of their ingredients, you have no idea. It's like, where's the weak link in this chain? Absolutely. And I think that's, when you're dealing with countries like China that we're importing so much from, and now they're going to the FDA is considering letting them produce chickens for the American market. Currently, believe it or not, the chickens are sent to China. U.S. chickens are sent to China for processing and then sent back for sale. So we actually ship chickens to the Chinese because they process them cheaper. And then it comes back to the United States, but they're U.S. raised chickens. Wow. Now willing to let the Chinese raise the chickens, and we'll be eating whatever crap they feed to their chickens.
Well, as always, Sydney, it is a choice, right? We don't have to be purchasing any of this food at all. We can be supporting our locals. I know everybody everywhere, whether, maybe it's not your next door neighbor that has chickens or eggs or whatever. You might have to drive 30 minutes or an hour, but it's worth it, I think. And, the whole supplement thing, that's why I like to get people to eat their medicine. Strictly taking a capsule, you don't know what's in it. You don't know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so much of food is a component that is never measured in science today, which is the vitality of the food. the life energy in the food. And I think that's why vegetables and fruits are so good for you, is because they're still alive.
Yes.
And when you eat dead stuff that, I don't, if it's dried or, cooked or whatever, it's just not, it doesn't have, this is apart from the vitamins and the minerals and whatever might be taken out by cooking and storage or whatever. I mean, that's another issue. I'm just talking about an ingredient like vitamin life that's inside living stuff. And when even people who are hunters and they eat fresh meat, it's just such a different experience having fresh food. It still has the life energy in it. Yeah. And you know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Yeah. I feel sorry for people who are on like canned food. In Hawaii here, you would imagine everybody would have such a healthy diet. But the reality is most people are hooked to the grocery stores like Safeway, same exact Safeways as on the mainland. They look exactly the same across the country. So you can be in Safeway, you could be anywhere USA, and it's the same. And we're eating the same apples and pears. And it's the same. And the biggest consumer in the country, probably the world, for Spam is Hawaii. How's that?
Wow. Wow. That blows my mind. It makes me sad to hear, actually. I mean, when I'm out like in New Mexico or Arizona, I'm always kind of disappointed when I see natives eating cheeseburgers and Dr. Pepper. It's like, what? What's happened to our culture? Wow.
Well,
same in Hawaii, huh?
Totally. Well, the local culture here is like Native Americans in many ways, and they're very, there's a lot of poverty and a lot of ignorance and a lot of domestic violence and drug abuse and,
Spam in Hawaii. That blows my mind. Spam in Hawaii. That blows my mind. Like, what the heck is even in that crap anyways? Does anyone know?
Well, it's on the can. I mean, it's chopped up minced animal products with, lots of nitrates. And the nitrates is what people get addicted to.
Like eyeballs and gristle and like ground up what animal, what product.
But, when World War II happened, Hawaii being an island, has food issues. And even now, you'd think we would produce most of our own food, right? But in actuality, no. Agriculture is a very small part of our state's economy. Wow. And most of we grow, get ready for all these Hawaii mind-blowing things. We grow more GMOs here than like anywhere. They use Kauai, the Kauai, the island.
Favorite island.
That you would, they grow more seeds on Kauai, GMO seeds. But now Kauai just passed, like yesterday, they overrode the veto of the mayor for this. They want to know, the Kauai people voted to pass a bill that is going to, it's like probably should have had national attention, to ban GMOs to some degree and have disclosures of where they are and what pesticides they're using. Because these guys use intense, heavy-duty herbicides and pesticides, some of which they don't let anybody know what they're using. And they're using them on big fields. So this passed laws that require buffer zones between schools and other areas and GMOs and a disclosure of what they're spraying and a bunch of other stuff. And then that was vetoed by the mayor. And they just overrode his veto. But there's going to be lawsuits flying like crazy. But Kauai is one of the big places for GMO. And the big island where I live is the only one of the islands yet left. Maui and Oahu and Kauai and Molokai, they all have GMOs growing on them now. Big Island is the only one that doesn't have GMOs in a big way growing. We just have, there's one dairy farm that grows GMO corn and for his own consumption. And that's about it. But they banned GMO taro because that's considered like it's a very respected Hawaiian, native Hawaiian food. And they were going to genetically modify it, but it was like an insult to the Hawaiians. So they voted to actually passed a law preventing the genetic modification of taro in Hawaii on the Big Island. And now they're looking at another GMO bill to ban GMOs in a big way here. Make you have to register it, and grow them indoors. They can't be outdoors, and then put all sorts of restrictions on it. And it's it's putting the GMO industry up in arms. I mean, they're just really their attorneys are up in arms, I should say.
Well, go Big Island of Hawaii. I'm really sad to hear about Kauai and Maui, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, those places, and they're taking, oh, yeah, Paradise isn't what they presented on the, by the Hawaii Tourism Authority. That's the brand. And you guys get exposed to the brand, and the reality is completely different. And but it's great environment. And you can grow your own stuff if they haven't released biocontrol agents to attack it because it's non-native. I mean, they're crazy here like that. They have this agenda to. It used to be in Hawaii, they introduced all sorts of species that they thought could grow here that might do well and be a food crop or whatever, or ornamentals, and they introduced animals for food and all this stuff. And then in the recent past, like in the last 20 years, the whole idea has shifted to killing a lot of things. We could talk about this when we come back.
Yeah, let's do that. And I promise we'll get into sleep positions and everything, but I think this is very important as well. Hang on, everyone. We will be back with Sydney Ross Singer here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow, friendships to flourish, with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio and service to the community with strength, wisdom and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio@ymail.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs and artillery batteries not included.
Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Our special guest tonight, Sydney Ross Singer of KillerCulture.com. He is the director of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease, located in the beautiful islands of Hawaii, where he gets to grow his own pineapple and doesn't have to worry about this stuff like we do. But you were saying, Sydney, that they introduced certain species to grow there, and now they're basically trying to get rid of them, saying, oh, they're native, and trying to kill them off. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's all related to it's related to medicine, and I'll show you the relation. This oh, by the way, I just got a little distracted because my website guy just told me the website is back up.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Because I was trying to post articles all day, and it's like, I thought it was maybe just me, but okay. Yep. Your site is back up, so I can post links again.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So what's happened is there's the view of the environment actually models the way we view medicine and the body, because your body is actually an ecosystem, and it's got all sorts of things living on it, bacteria, fungus, all sorts of things living on you and inside of you, and you're the ecosystem that you control. What do you think of, how do you conceptualize disease coming into your body? Well, we think of that as like an invasion, and we fight the invasion off with chemicals, and we think, or with surgery.
Or by suppressing the symptoms with a drug that actually suppresses our immune system in the process.
Sure, and I'm giving there's an environmental analogy to that. So what they've done now is, see, the chemical companies that control the medical model, that define things in those terms, is now, it also controls the environmental movement and what we do to the environment. So they think of things as invasive species that come into different environments. This is one of the biggest alleged threats today. And there's invasive species councils on the federal and state level all over, and international levels, and they're killing things like crazy. And the reason they're doing it is because these plants and animals that have beneficial features, many of them were brought on purpose, they are considered non-native now. They don't, and as if they don't belong in this part of the world. And we have to go back 200 years or so before Western contact with these areas, and the Europeans colonized. They want to go to pre-colonial times and get rid of all the species that have been introduced since, and try to return everything to native ecosystems like it used to be. And unfortunately, that is like a fantasy, of course, with climate change and different use of the land and all the pollution and the development. I mean, those are the things that are killing a lot of stuff. But they want to blame it on the plants and animals that have come in and have been introduced. And some of them can be problems, and they're weeds or whatever, but they can be a nuisance, and they do need control in certain situations. But it's been blown out of proportion to not just weeds, but nice things. For example, right now, the federal government, and by right now, I mean this is November 2013, for those listening in the future, the federal government is making rule changes, and people can comment on it right now, to allow in Hawaii basically open season by all the government agencies, state, county, and federal, against cattle egrets and barn owls.
Wow.
And they were brought in the late 50s, just before the state became a state. It was still a territory. They were brought in by the ranchers and the government, the territorial government, to control different pests. So the barn owl for rodent control, and the cattle egrets to control the flies that are on the cattle. And they're all over the world. Cattle egrets are doing that, and they're valued for that. So they were brought to Hawaii. That was in a time when they didn't worry about what happens when these species get entrenched in the environment and change it because they're now part of it, and it's a new environment. And that means they're going to compete with other things. And nowadays, that's the biggest thing. If you compete with an endangered species, and there are a lot of them in Hawaii, and it could be like a fruit fly, and a native fruit fly, and they'll set aside critical habitat that you can't touch because it could disturb that fruit fly. So Hawaii does that kind of thing. We have about, I think, 18 or 20 endangered fruit flies, pictured wing fruit flies. As soon as they mutate and get a new little dot on their wings, they're considered a new species, and they're often in a little niche area. And as soon as they're discovered, they're like rare, and the critical habitat could be declared for those. And when that happens under the Endangered Species Act, it means you got to protect whoever owns that property. It's like not yours anymore in a way. You have to protect this endangered species. And they've used that like with the spotted owl to stop logging in the Pacific Northwest and things like that. Endangered species take precedence. So they're saying that the owl and the egret are competing with endangered, like the egret can attack the endangered Hawaiian coot and duck and other water birds, and it's been noticed that they can be attacked by these egrets, and the egrets are pretty they're growing in number much better than any of the native birds around here. So they become suddenly a problem, And then the government goes to these eradication campaigns. So they're going to want to kill all these beautiful birds just because they're successful introductions. And they'll kill 1 million of them to save a couple of endangered birds. And it's not going to necessarily save a thing, because what's killing these birds is all the pesticides running off into the oceans.
Exactly.
And the loss of habitat to development and things like that. But of course, this is one of the other factors, and this is one that they could work on, because you can't stop developers very easily, but you can certainly get money to shoot a bird. So that's how it works.
Wow.
And poisoning is another big thing. And that's all, the big companies that you think of with GMOs, they are the ones that make poisons, the herbicides and pesticides. This is agribusiness, and they are selling these chemicals for environmental control of all of these species, including things like strawberry guava, which is a wonderful, beautiful fruit tree that grows like crazy, which is an advantage and a disadvantage, because it makes it weedy, but at the same time, it produces fruit like crazy. It was introduced in the about 200 years ago into Hawaii. So it's spread and it's entrenched. But whenever you bulldoze, certain species come up when you bulldoze that are weeds that are like inside the bulldozer crevices, that somehow when they come in and bulldoze, they spread these weeds. And things that grow fast take over, and before you know it, they become a problem. So then the government starts spraying things, and it's in they want to get rid of these species. Sometimes they release insects to attack them. And that's what they're doing with the strawberry guava. They've released a bug from Brazil, where strawberry guava was imported from. And this bug galls the leaves, making bubbles on the leaves, and it makes the leaves fall off, and it dwarfs the plant, and it stops it from making fruit, or at least it diminishes the fruit substantially. And then if you cut it, it won't grow back very well. And so forests are going to be infested with these insects, these gall insects. And then they have to hope that they're not going to go to any other plant, that they're going to be specific just to the strawberry guava, which scientists say they think they will be. They only attack a few other species, but you never know when you have a forest full of billions of them. That's an experiment. And then there have been problems throughout the history of biocontrol. I mean, the birds I told you about were biocontrol, introduction of biological organisms to control other ones. They brought in the mongoose back in the 1800s to control the rats. And then the mongooses became their own problem because they started eating all the ground nesting birds and their eggs. So it's one of these crazy, domino effects that they don't know how to predict. But then they release things to attack food, because food has been introduced to Hawaii in the past for obvious reasons.
Yeah, like you shouldn't have your own food there.
And they want Safeway. I mean, it's a real control over food supply. And the GMO companies want to get rid of, their competition like any other business. And they want to grow. They're buying up farmland like it's going out of style in Hawaii. And they control the legislature. And they're the big ones here, BASF and Monsanto. And I've had a run-in with these guys, not directly, but through a proxy of theirs. They poisoned mangrove trees in Hawaii. And mangroves are swamp-type trees that grow along the shore. And they are very important for fish, as a fisher habitat, like nurseries, because they have these legs on them, and they provide shelter for little baby fish. And so it creates like an incubator. And it's very important for the sea life throughout the world is mangrove forests, which are being decimated to make shrimp farms. And because all the shrimp that you see everywhere, shrimp is so available, that's because they're taking out all these shoreline mangrove forests and putting in shrimp farms. And that's causing major impacts on ecosystems, because the mangroves also clean the water, they filter it, and they grow really deep into the salt part of the ocean. So they're right there at the tide. Well, anyway, somebody introduced them, the government introduced them actually 100 years ago into Molokai to prevent soil erosion along the shore. And they spread to all the other islands. And they started getting on the big island, and this environmental group wanted to kill them. So they went out and they poisoned them with free with herbicide from BASF and a grant from Monsanto. And they didn't do any environmental assessment or public comments. So I actually sued for that to stop them. But I was too late. There's a statute of limitations. Like if it's over 120 days from when they start, it's too late to stop them to do an environmental review in Hawaii. Okay. So I couldn't stop them, but I went through that whole process, and I got to see how dirty and corrupted it all is. And so now we have dead mangroves on our shoreline. They didn't remove them. They didn't want to remove them like they do in other places where they grow. If they start taking over a beach, you might want to trim them back. But it can affect the shore, and they have to do it really carefully, and they have to do big environmental assessments that cost money. So this was an experiment to see if they could do it on the cheap by just poisoning them and leaving them to rot. Wow. So
that's obviously affecting other things.
Of course, it killed all the fish in that area. And they did that in a marine preservation area, and the government was helping them and paying for it, and I couldn't stop them, and it was obvious they should have done a review for this. It was so egregious a thing, and we now have on our beaches acres of dead mangrove trees. It looks like winter, and they're falling over, leafless, and they're falling over now in the shore with their big legs sticking up. So they're going to become storm rack, and they're going to hurt people and bash into things and pollute the water as they further break down, and it's a crime. But that's being done by an environmental group. So and with. Say that again?
Of course, right?
Yeah, the ironies. So it gets to, who's taken over the environmental movement? It's clear. And that's the same as the way medicine treats people. It looks at the invading organism and mounts a chemical or surgical attack. Here they see these invading species and they mount a chemical or surgical, they'll bulldoze, attack, and to try to control things. They'll chainsaw things down. I mean, so it's the same model, it's the same war metaphor. And, the thing is, when you live in a war zone, whether it's your body or your environment, there's always casualties of war, and it's best not to define it that way. There are better ways of defining the environment and your body and treating both ecosystems in a much friendly way. Like,
can we just leave her alone? How about that? Well, man is not smarter than Mother Nature, period.
Well, it's not a matter of smart. You know what it is? And we leave things alone where we are, except when you want something growing that you value.
Of course.
Once you have values, nature has no values. Whatever grows is the survival of the fittest. If it can grow there, it'll grow. And nature is saying, I like this right here. It's letting it happen. We come in and we say, I don't like that. It doesn't belong here for whatever reason, and I want to put this there. So we come in as humans and redefine nature. And that's part of, I think, our function in the ecosystem. That's another interesting discussion of, what are people? Are we these mutant creatures from Planet X that come to Earth to screw things up and eat it and consume it like locusts, and then we fly off to another planet?
Maybe, huh? That's a good one.
Or are we actually very important parts of evolution, and we create chaos and change and are important for rapid evolution, and then things adapt and change because everything changes. I think we are agents of change, and it's like a hurricane or other forces, big forces of nature. And I think what we end up doing is we end up changing it to the point where we threaten our own survival because our wisdom doesn't ever match our technology. And I think we then go back in the cave for a while, and everything starts to just re-evolve and continues to evolve into new relationships that we've created in our last civilization, and then eventually we work our way back out of the cave and do it all again.
That sounds fun. I love spinning in the wheel in the rat cage, but hang on, everyone. It is that time. We will be right back.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out. The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for joining us here tonight, Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And I promise we will get back into the topic of sleep, but I'm really enjoying all of this fascinating information, well, disheartening, heartbreaking information you're sharing with us about some of the environmental issues that you are dealing with in Hawaii here. And again, you can go to his website, killerculture.com, and right up on the top it says environmental health, and then right below you can learn more about the koki frogs, the mangroves, and the strawberry guava, everything he was talking about tonight, and the lawsuit and questions and answers and pictures, really sad pictures where you get to see how beautiful it was and now how it looks after they poisoned it. And Sydney, I'm just assuming that whatever they're poisoning with is clearly killing more off than just one specific tree, right?
Oh, of course. And they were using a combination of imazapyr and glyphosate. Glyphosate is Roundup, and imazapyr is stronger than that. You need a special applicator's license to apply this stuff. And they just bore a hole in the tree, and they poison it inject it through that hole, and then it goes down into the roots, and it can go into the ground and the groundwater and all that. And when this stuff decays, so it's a pretty nasty thing to do to a tree that is actually everywhere else in the world. There are laws protecting mangroves. They're rebuilding them. If you were to say mangrove to any environmentalist, they would say we have to save the mangroves, except in Hawaii. They'll say they're not native, they don't belong here. And what will happen is the mangroves change the environment. They create more sediment, they create more of a marsh. And that more different types of animals thrive in that, and it changes the character of the environment. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad. I mean, it's a change. There's no question that all these introductions make changes, and that life and time just brings change. Change happens, and it's happening rapidly. But whether it's good or bad is a value judgment, and that's a cultural issue. And right now, the culture is valuing nativism and sort of a reaction to colonialism. And let's try to, bring back, and it sounds sort of nice, we should save the endangered species. Yeah, it's not nice that these other creatures and plants from other parts of the world come here and they take over because the native plants and they can't deal with the competition and because they're used to not having that type of competition, and they're bringing in things that are just more competitive. So you can lose the character of an area. And in a place like Hawaii, where they're branding a certain type of ambiance and environment, being native and all of that, they don't want Hawaii to look like Puerto Rico and or Brazil or other places. So when we import plants and animals from those parts of the world, it changes the character. And I think the way all of these governments they want to divvy up the world like Disneyland, You have Hawaii World,
Yeah.
So you go to, and then there's Puerto Rico world. In Puerto Rico world, you're supposed to hear the coqui frogs, but you're not supposed to hear them in Hawaii world. There it's supposed to be quiet because we never had any frogs. We were just a volcanic island. But it's very inconsistent, because if the Hawaiians brought it, then it would be fine. It's a real it's like a reverse discrimination. Anything that the Hawaiians did is considered native. They brought pigs to Hawaii. Their pigs would have been okay. When the Europeans brought the pigs, they're bad. So and then they'll say, well, the European pig is more aggressive, and they'll try to come up with an excuse. And then the Hawaiians brought mangroves, and they brought a type of mangrove called Milo for the same reasons, to protect the shoreline. They brought that with them when they settled Hawaii. That's considered native, even though it was introduced by Hawaiians like within the last 1,000 years or so. But when the white people brought another type of mangrove for the same reason, that's not good, because it was a European introduction by modern culture. So it's like, this is a reaction to it, but it's stupid, because what ends up happening is it creates intolerance for immigrants, and it becomes, this is why I've got very concerned about it. The history of oppression, genocide, and so forth is is modern. It's modern times, and when people start talking nativism and saying who belongs where, and it's like there are periods in history where a culture, everything is going great, and they're very generous, and they want to bring in immigrants, and they're willing to share, and nobody's worried about losing their job. There's plenty to go around. In fact, we can bring in more employment from overseas, so let's bring in immigrants. And we've gone through waves of immigration like that. And then there are times when the economy goes bad, and suddenly all the natives who were there first say, all these immigrants are now consuming our resources, and they're eating our food, they're taking up space, they're taking up medical care, they're taking up school space, they're in the way, and they got to go. And then you get anti-immigrants feelings and nationalism, and usually that follows as war. And that's typically when you get nationalism and people starting to draw their lines and boundaries and say who belongs where, and they start kicking out immigrant groups, and they start being intolerant. You get increased racism and all anti-Semitism and anti-everythingism, and because people are like, they're intolerant. So usually that accompanies economic problems, right? I mean, that's what happens. You can see that, like in Greece, where they're having major economic problems, is the rise of the right-wing political parties, and in Hungary, and all these where places get economic difficulties, people start getting mean and possessive, and they want to get rid of the stranger who no longer belongs there. So that's happening in the environmental world. It's the same thing, and I worry about it, because when I see people killing things for no good reason, like Monterey pines are being killed in California, like in San Francisco, these huge, beautiful Monterey pines that were planted there, and eucalyptus that were planted like 100 years ago. They're now being destroyed because they don't belong there. Monterey is 100 miles down the coast. Monterey pines don't belong up in San Francisco. I mean, it's this kind of thinking, and they're killing 100-year-old beautiful trees all over the place, all over the country. So we have a culture right now that, no surprise, we've been at war since 2001. And, so 12 years of war, you don't think about it, but we're at war. 12 years of war has made us so militarized that our environmental policy is, people are accepting destruction and killing things because they don't belong there. Get rid of them. They're the aliens. So the alien, and they use the same word, alien species, they're invading, they're taking over the environment, they're consuming resources and competing for food. The same exact argument for human immigrants is made against these immigrants. So I see a parallel issue. And I've been fighting this, trying to tell that to these people in Hawaii. I'm very frustrated because, when the government has an agenda to kill these things, and they're working hand in hand with the industries that make the killing chemicals. That's the armaments. That's the arsenal. You know, it's the same with war, right? Lockheed Martin and all these places, all the munitions places, they're the ones who profit from war. And when you're dealing with environmental war, it's the chemical companies that are profiting from war.
Always.
And, you know, so...
And then 60 years from now, they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry, but, you know, back in 2012 and 13, we started introducing these chemicals, and now we're going to admit they've been, like they did with, chicken recently. They said, oh, yeah, we've been poisoning it the last 60 years, and like they do with everything else. I don't know about your parents or grandparents, Sydney, but mine grew up on a farm, and... You know, they were very familiar with DDT and all of that fun stuff. And look at us now. It's the exact same chemical corporations making, who knows if the chemicals are even different or if they just put a new name on it. You know, but it's so frustrating. Let's talk about... go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what can we do about this? I mean, I like to believe that Mother Nature will always win. So whatever they poison her with, she's going to produce whatever is necessary, you know, as kind of the antidote. I hope, I guess. And then I also know, you know, we could live, you know, all pissed off and angry and fearful, like, oh my gosh, now everything's poisoned, we're going to die, let's just give up now. Or we can, you know, maybe send a little positivity or just do our best. For example, as they're killing trees, we could just be planting seeds anywhere, whether we have property or not. And, you know, 5 years from now, you might be driving down the street and there's some fresh peaches there or whatever it is that grows in your area. I mean, let's talk about what we can do about all of these travesties going on here, but it is that time. We will be back after these few short minutes. Stay tuned. Sydney Ross Singer of KillerCulture.com here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, We are American Freedom Radio,
Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We are discussing all sorts of fun stuff here tonight with Sydney Ross Singer. He is the author of several excellent books, groundbreaking, controversial. Of course, I'm sure many of you know. I'm definitely into the Free the Boobies issue, which you can read more about in his book, Dress to Kill. And then you followed that up in Get It Off, right, Sydney?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, I did.
And Get It Off. And then his other books, you have paperback and ebooks that are downloadable instantly. So Dress to Kill, Get It Off, Get It Out, Get It Up, and The Doctor is Out. So check them out, KillerCulture.com. By the way, they're only like $11 each. So best $11 you could ever spend. And then the ebooks are like $9, but we're kind of talking about, some of the environmental issues, and we left off with, what we can do about this. I know many sit paralyzed in fear. They want to scream at their top of their lungs, oh, they're killing us, screw you, I hate you, they're killing us. Yet, these same people that are, talking the loudest aren't really doing much. They still go to the same corporations and spend their hard-earned money on that same poison rather than just get out and plant some seeds, work the dirt, do things like what you're doing, you and Soma, Sydney, growing your own food. And, we do have choices despite let's say it's 100% acid rain and chemtrails every day and, all of the horrible things that people talk about. I don't want to deny, I'm not denying that these things are going on. They certainly are. But we can't control that. What we can control is our own health, our own environment, our own area. So I don't know, the way I see it is if you really do want to overcome this situation, I mean, if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself, right?
Yes.
So, I realized stuff's not healthy. Like, we were talking about pineapples earlier, Sydney, and obviously pineapples do not grow here in Missouri. I have to accept that if I want to be a spoiled American and have a pineapple in Missouri in winter, that, I'm basically giving my power away and putting my trust into that corporation that brought it to me. And maybe it's GMO, maybe it's full of chemicals, but that is a choice that I'm consciously making. But what I can do, to counter that is make sure that the other 90% of my food is clean, local, organic. And not only that, when I'm eating it, I don't have to, be, oh my gosh, this is going to kill me. This is chemicals. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm getting sick. Or I can infuse some of my energy, life force, vitality, or whatever. I can thank the pineapple. It's not the pineapple's fault that it may be poison, right? I mean, I just think of these poor little plants that are being chemicalized to death, and it's really just like us humans and animals anymore with vaccines and drugs and everything else going on. Again, it's not our fault. It's not their fault. So why don't we give it that love energy or, positivity or something to make the difference now? And again, of course, put our money where our mouth is. If you're feeding the beast is going to keep growing, right? Just common sense. I don't know. What do you think?
I think I agree with what you're saying. And I think another aspect of it is the placebo effect, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
The way the expectations that people have when they are exposed to something, it creates, are self-fulfilling.
Yes.
So if a person thinks they're going to get sick from something, they may very well get sick from it. And that's how voodoo works. And people get just these suggestions. It's almost like hypnosis.
Yes.
And you auto-hypnotize yourself with these messages. And we can make life miserable if we want to. Or we can just say, I'm not going to let this bother me, and be positive. Say, I'm okay. I mean, I know people who will eat junk food and think to themselves, they're okay. It's not going to hurt me. I'm only doing it once. And it just doesn't bother them. Another person who's like, oh, I'm just so, my system is so sensitive. They're expecting it's going to bother them. Of course, if they try anything, they're going to be bothered by it. And they'll say, you see, I knew I was going to be, upset and made sick by this. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And people really take it to extreme. Like, for example, some raw foodists that I know and people that, believe that the only way to heal or be healthy is to have like a grape juice fast for 6 months. During this time, I mean, they make themselves so sensitive that they freak out at the thought of an orange. Oh, that's going to shut down my digestive system. And, it's like, really? Come on. So if we can do that with oranges or lemons or watermelon, most certainly we have the same power of suggestion with everything else that's out there that isn't as healthy as oranges, right?
and this goes beyond what we're talking about with other expectations of being sick that we're given. And people who are look at all the ads that tell you every day things like, are you having trouble sleeping? Or are you feeling pain, a headache? Does your back bother you? Do you have indigestion? Do you have, and they're there like trying to convince you. I was looking at some something on the internet that had some commercials, and I think it was Hulu. I was on Hulu, and the commercials were about things like, "Are your eyes not tearing enough? You may have a disease." And it was, like, this is great. If you have this problem, you may have a disease, and there's a drug you can take. So we're being sold.
Have you ever
on
been
being sick.
tired? You may have a disease.
Yeah, see your doctor right away. It could be extremely serious. So, yeah. And if people are keyed into that and believe that, and but the other thing, it comes. I want to ask you about the Free the Boobies, right? So we have all of this Facebook website, Facebook page, Free the Boobies. A lot of people are doing, putting a lot of time and thought into their comments and sharing, and it's so interesting that of late, some people have mentioned how they had to try the bras on again.
Yeah.
And it's really, and I know other people, like, they'll quit drinking. And then they'll just say, well, I just have to try another drink again. I just have to know why I stopped, or smoking, or whatever it is. It's like there's this component of human nature that is really stupid and wants to, and I'm included. I mean, human nature. I'm not calling people stupid. I think humans have.
Hey,
this,
we're all stupid. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know I am.
I mean, it's like the story of Pandora's box, right?
Yeah.
You take all the evil, you put it in the box, and you don't open the box, or all this evil will come back out. And a person's looking at the box of Pandora, and she opened the box and just wanted to see. She just had this, I have to see. It's this curiosity, this sense of, gee, I wonder why. So we convince ourselves of something at one time, and then we just don't believe ourselves later on. We've got to try it again.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Maybe we just want to, like, feel human again or something. I know that, if I'm eating, well, I always eat mostly well. I'm not perfect by any means, but when I'm juicing greens and berries and stuff in my garden all spring long, I just, I'm like high as a kite, just, totally buzzing on life. And sometimes it's almost too much. I'm like, okay, I gotta wind down. I'm gonna get a thin crust veggie pizza from Domino's. And I swear, and I do it again consciously, because I know, with frickin' 4 weeks of, just greens and herbs and berries, I can certainly afford it. But to me, it's kind of like a reminder. I don't know. I have some friends that have, I remember that discussion in Free the Boobies, and maybe it is just to see, or that curiosity, or to remind us of our humanness, or even to, maybe people want to reevaluate where they're at and really see if it is in fact working, or if it's all in their head. Like, maybe, because just as we can make ourselves sick by thinking that way, I also believe we can make ourselves well. And maybe with a bra issue, maybe somebody, whoever that was, just wanted to see, wow, am I really feeling this much better because I don't have a bra? Let's go wear one today and see what happens. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I guess that's what you would do as an experiment. I mean, you'd try it, take it off, see you feel better, put it back on, see if you feel worse, take it off, see if you feel better, and then you say, okay, this was hurting me. But then do you try it again on next year? And then
no. I think once is enough, at least for me.
Well, that I think people are different, and that's why it's hard for many people to just change their behaviors, especially when these things are being advertised, and they're seeing images around them convincing them to do a certain thing that they now know is not what they want to do. It's
and it might be societal pressures too. I mean, what if they're living in a home where, their family is about to disown them? Oh, you freak, I'm not going anywhere in public with you without a bra. Come on, just fit in, be part of the club. Or, I'm sure people have a lot of peer pressure to deal with. I know I succumb to many things in my life. Peer pressure, of course. I'm not there now. I'm not putting a bra on for anything. I don't need the experiment. I'm already convinced, but I understand. I mean, like some of my friends, I don't know what you call them, recovering addicts or whatever, which I hate that term. They had their drug past, whatever, a couple decades ago. And, sometimes they think, well, using right now sounds really good, and we've talked about it. It's like, you know what? Then go do it. Go remind yourself why you're not doing it. And I don't know. Of course, they never ended up doing it. But how else are we going to be reminded? Sometimes I think we have to look back to see how far we've come, or at least I do.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's why it's hard for people to really quit, though, because these things they try sometimes are seductive.
Yeah. And, well, again, it's their choice. Do they want to be healthy, or do they want to be part of the club? That's
right. That's absolutely right. And I wanted to talk today about what happens when people get beyond, when you get beyond the ability for your body to really heal. I mean, one of the things that we've made an assumption about in our conversations is that your body has this design to work properly, and if you leave it alone and don't interfere with it by poisoning it or leaning on it the wrong way or constricting it or whatever, if you leave it do what nature intended, you'd be fine. But the thing is, nature also intends that we die. Mm-hmm. So there's a time where our bodies will stop working properly, and that might, because it's programmed in our genes for you to decay at a certain point. It's like a self-destruct program.
What if we're really not supposed to? Wouldn't that be weird?
I think we are supposed to, because I think it's essential. It's actually an adaptive, it's beneficial. The earliest life forms, like an amoeba or whatever, they didn't die. They're immortal. They just keep on dividing. Mm-hmm. But with death, there's actually, there's
we kind of do too, wouldn't you say? We divide through our children, through our legacy, our ideas, or whatever we taught them, and I don't know. My idea or my opinion is that there is no life without death, that it's a completely normal, natural process of life. But yeah, we are kind of dividing like the amoebas, right?
Well, but when the amoeba divides, the body that it divides is like almost regenerated, and it grows and divides again and again. We have bodies that actually die.
Yeah.
So the advantage of that is it allows more new life to come in that can adjust to the changing circumstances. And so it allows for reproduction. If you didn't die, you wouldn't be able to reproduce. If we were immortal, I mean, we would overpopulate. So the only way to you have to have a turnover to allow for the reproductive cycle. Reproduction requires death. If you're going to bring people into the world, you got to bring people out of the world. So we are going to have that process. And I think our culture makes, I collect old books once in a while, and these old, by old I mean prior to the 1920s or so, or 30s.
Oh, nice.
When, you look at old, if there's poetry or quotes, look at a book on old quotations and look in the areas about death and dying. And it's really interesting, because back in those days, people were so much more accepting of death.
Yes.
They saw it more as like the angel of death coming to relieve you of your suffering.
Yes.
And they thought of it in a sweet way. They tried to rationalize death and feel it and put a good story around it and make themselves accept it. And they had people dying at home.
Yeah.
They were born at home and they died at home. Then with 20th century and the rise of the hospitals and our medical care system, we've been really alienated and disconnected from all of these processes. Birth is supposed to happen in a surgical ward, and death probably happens in the hospital too.
Oh, but death is so bad. So now we have life support. We're going to keep you alive as a vegetable for 20 frickin' years, and, rape your children and grandchildren of your home and your property, and, how many millions of dollars. Like, how humane is that?
Exactly. And they get you in the time of your life when you're desperate. Yes. And that's one of the reasons I think, when, we haven't ever talked about like Obamacare or, socialized medicine or anything like that. But, when you think about the field of medicine, it isn't really your typical consumer-oriented field where you can go and purchase the best doctor, the best services, at the best prices type of thing. Usually you have like an emergency and the ambulance comes and takes you to the hospital, and you're just dealing with things as they come to you, and you don't have the time to prepare. So you're at the mercy of these people and at their pricing system and everything they do to you.
And unfortunately, a lot of those things that they may be diagnosing us with, we don't even know if it's real or not. And
we should talk about that after this commercial.
Absolutely.
How to survive the medical system.
All right, how to survive the medical system. Coming up after this short break. Stay tuned. Soul Journeys Radio.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom.
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us in the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. Sydney Ross Singer is the author of some of my favorite books, Dress to Kill. Of course, we were talking about the bra issue, and then Get It Off, Get It Out, Get It Up. He is also the director of the Institute for the Study of Culturogenic Disease located in Hawaii in Sydney. I think we're going to have to put the sleep part 2. We're going to do that another time because time is just, it's really flying by here tonight, and I think these are very important issues as well, so please forgive me. But we'll address that another time. So we decided during the break, Sydney, the new title of the show is Sydney Unleashed, right? Sid Singer Unleashed?
Sid Singer Unleashed, I think, yeah.
Woohoo! Go Sydney!
I'm foaming at the mouth and everything.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, you're right. We have been all over the place tonight. As far, different, actually we left off talking about how to survive the medical system. And, I posed the question or, just a statement that when we're at their mercy, say you get taken in by an ambulance and then you wake up and find out that you had like 40 different surgeries because they said, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's like going to a mechanic, right? When you're a girl and don't know anything about cars. They can tell me I need a new gasket in my engine, but how do I really know? I don't know what a gasket is. I don't know what an engine is. There's no way for me to actually physically see it. And I'm wondering if a lot of these diagnoses that, they hand us, if they really even exist at all. I mean, I'm seriously questioning, did I really have cancer? Did I really have lupus? Did I really have these things? How do I know? I know many of my friends, and this is specific to breast cancer, it was like 4 in a 2-year period that all got their boobs chopped off. And, they were totally fine when they went to the doctor. They just went for a routine mammogram. And then they're like, oh, you have a lump. Oh, by the way, it's cancer. But hey, don't worry. We're just going to chop them off and give you new fake silicone ones. And oh, by the way, here's some radiation and chemo and everything will come out just fine. Well, one of my friends died. The rest are just sick still to this day. But they were fine before they went to the doctor. So my question is, how do we really know? How can we really trust our doctor? Do we really know that everything they tell us we allegedly have really exists at all?
I mean, your question is right on. I mean, it's rhetorical, but I'll answer it anyway, because you don't really know. Yeah. And many times the doctors are wrong. Well, a doctor is going to try to do a differential diagnosis when you come in with a problem. They're going to want to know what are the possible things that this could be. And the first things on their list are going to be the most dangerous stuff that they want to rule out. Mm-hmm. So they're going to do a lot of tests. And they'll do more tests than you might think they need, that they even probably think they need, just to be defensive. Because if you have something that they didn't test for and it comes back, they'll be, like they die from it and you didn't test for it, you're going to be sued big time. So the doctor, to be defensive, for defensive medicine, will order lots and lots of tests. Mm-hmm. The problem is some of these tests could be extremely invasive. So you have to be careful about what you're willing to do, because the tests can kill you. The tests themselves can have complications that could lead to major problems. For example, if you come into, let's say you have a seizure and you go into the hospital after a seizure and they don't know the cause of it. Mm-hmm. One of the first things they're going to wonder about is, like, do you have meningitis? An infection in your brain. So they're going to want to, part of the things they'll be looking for is they do blood workup and they'll CAT scan your brain and see if you have a tumor that's causing the seizure. I mean, what can cause something like that? And, it could be caused by a whole bunch of things. And they're going to want to narrow it, try to figure out which it is. So they're going to do tests. But one of the tests, if it could be a meningitis, then you can have either bacteria or a virus in your brain. Or even fungus. If you're immunocompromised, you can have that. And to test for those things, they're going to have to do a spinal tap. Now, a spinal tap, I mean, they'll make a decision to do this in the ER on your way in. So you're like, they'll be doing all this stuff to you. And in a spinal tap, they actually, tap into the spinal cord right above your tailbone area, and they go right in the lumbar part of your back. They go right into the spine and sample the cerebral spinal fluid. So they're breaking through all the membranes that protect the central nervous system. So when they pull that out, you could leak, because they made a hole in your body to the cerebral spinal fluid, and you can leak fluid out, which can give you bad headache, and it causes your brain to have a concussion as it sucks down into the hole in the base of your skull. So then you can get an infection through that. And then they can discover, well, okay, they were going to do that to get a sample of the cerebral spinal fluid to test and see what's growing in there, and it might be negative. There was nothing growing in there. It's really something else. But they had to do that test right up front because that was one of the possibilities. Mm-hmm. So now they have a person who had no meningitis, but they now have a hole in their spine from the test, which could cause all sorts of secondary complications. And then they might discover the seizure was just because of a medication that you were on, that one of the side effects is seizures. They might not even think about that, but that could be the real cause. That should be one of their differential diagnosis issues. Is it a drug side effect? I mean, I think that's the first thing everyone should keep in mind, and doctors won't necessarily think about that. Mm-hmm. One of the first things you should suspect, if anything happens to you while you're on a medication, if a new symptom occurs, first thing to question is the drug you're on. And
Always.
That's often, well, that's usually the last thing the doctor will question, because they probably prescribed it and they don't want to admit that their drug just caused this problem.
Yeah, Sydney, I'll tell you, all the people that come to me for help, when they tell me what drugs they're on and I look at the side effects, all of the symptoms that they're complaining about that they want to heal are side effects of the drug they're taking. And so they end up going and complain, well, now I have this and now I have that. And instead of, teaching them how to heal it without the drug or suggesting trying something else, they just give them more and pile them on top of each other until, we're just walking zombies. And I lived that myself. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, some of the drugs they give have very long half-lives. Like I met a person recently who was given Valium after an episode by an emergency personnel because they were having a real bad time, and they were given Valium, and we looked into the effect of Valium. You know what the half-life is for Valium? It blew me away when I read this. It's a week. A week is the half-life.
Wow.
That means the half-life of something is the amount of time it takes for half of it to decay or to be metabolized away and get out of your system. So it means if you were given Valium on day one, in some people, the half-life of the active metabolites of Valium goes as long as a week. In many people, I mean, so you go look at 5 to 7 days for the half-life. So that means whatever they gave you, half of it is still in your system a week later. And then another week later, half of that, so a quarter of the original, is still in your system. And then an eighth is still in your system by the next week. So by a month later, a 16th of that dosage is still in your system.
Amazing.
So you're still feeling the effects of Valium. Wow. Now, if you're in a hospital and they've given you drugs upon entering in the emergency room or whatever, and you're on these medications, and then they want to do tests on you, the tests are going to be affected and skewed by the drug you're on, right? Especially if it's like brain tests or liver tests. And they don't necessarily think about these, all these drugs you're taking, how they may all be interacting and how they may be affecting tests on your system. So they're testing you in a drugged, sick state, and they don't know what the test is really indicating. So you got to be really careful when you're in the hospital, and you have to be on top of everything they do to you.
Yes.
You have to be sure that they're not giving you the wrong drugs. Sometimes they'll have the wrong patient file there, and they'll give you the wrong drugs.
And people will say, well, I'm not a doctor. I don't know this. How am I supposed to know? Well, here's the indicator. How do you feel? If you don't feel good, it's not working, period. So at least have the balls to, speak up and say, this isn't working. Maybe you don't know what is going to work, but at least bring it to their attention right away if you choose to put your health in the responsibility of somebody else's hands.
Which you have to at times. And that's why you need to have strategies for surviving that, because there are times when you will have to be in that situation. If you get in an auto accident, you're in somebody else's hands, period. Yeah. And I mean, everybody takes that chance every day. And it doesn't matter if you don't like doctors. When you have an accident, the ambulance is coming, you go into the ER, and you're going to be in a hospital. So
unless you sign liability forms like I do.
Oh, and just let me out of here? Well, that's if you could sign.
Exactly. Do that. For sure.
But, with the internet, anybody can be sitting there with their iPhone and look up Google, like, side effects of whatever drugs they're prescribing. But what a doctor will often do is, if they give you a drug, let's say you're throwing up. That's such a common side effect of so many things, or of the disease itself, that they may just give you an anti-nausea medication. So they'll stop you from throwing up. And they won't realize that the reason you're throwing up is because the drug they're giving you, which you might not need because they're giving you that for a condition that they may have misdiagnosed, or, it's something that, they're guessing usually in the beginning. That's like, let's try this and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they hide these. Then the side effects, well, they don't know it's going to happen. I mean, there's no guarantees with these things. Everybody's body is different. Everybody eliminates these at a different rate. There's a common rate for elimination of drugs from your system, but that varies between people. And some people, like, it could be a drug like caffeine, which is a very powerful drug. It's used in a lot of pharmaceuticals, and people voluntarily consume it all the time, which is really bad for you, actually. Yeah. And I mean, caffeine has a lot of negative effects on the body. It's a stimulant, and people, when they're in it, it's like psychoactive, and it makes them feel really good, like cocaine. It's like those types of stimulants. These people, it stimulates their happiness centers, and they start feeling really good on this stuff, but it's destroying their system because it's a stimulant, and it gives you high blood pressure, and it causes dehydration, and it causes impulsive behavior, and it makes people work more than they should, and makes them irritable, and makes all sorts of problems. Well, I discovered in my own life that I can't have caffeine anymore. I mean, it was turning me into like a monster. I was just getting so irritable when I had caffeine and then I realized even decaf was getting me that way. And what happened was I wasn't getting clearance on the caffeine. And if you look it up, the normal half-life, which is important to know about a drug, that means how fast it gets out of your body. And these drugs are poisons. So you want to know how fast can your body get rid of this stuff. And if you're on a medication and you're taking more at a regular rate, if your body is not eliminating it fast enough, as assumed by the standard, well, usually it takes 4 hours to a half-life of 4 hours or something, you may have a half-life of 8 hours or of 2 days. And with caffeine, it can go as high as 2 days. So that means if I have a cup of coffee every day, I'm increasing my caffeine dosage faster than I'm decreasing it. And by the time a certain number of days go by, I'm like overdosing on caffeine, and I'm a tremendous amount in my system because I'm not eliminating it. So but it was one time in my life I was able to. So people go through changes in their own enzymes and in their metabolism based upon their health at the time, what they're exposed to, their diet. Their enzymes involved in detoxing from caffeine may be involved in some other thing that you're detoxing from, and the enzyme is taken up. There's just a certain amount of enzyme to go around, and you may have too much of the caffeine-like substance that enzyme works on, so the caffeine sticks around a lot longer. I mean, there's biochemical reasons for this happening, and it can change with life. So if you're taking drugs that the doctor has to figure out what dosage rate, because your own particular idiosyncratic way of dealing with this drug, they won't know until you deal with it. And if you might not be getting it out of your system, and it could be making you feel so miserable, and it could take weeks to get these drugs out of your system. So the original thing you went into the doctor in hospital for could be totally gone now. You're totally better, but you're dealing with all the drugs and the treatments and the tests that they've subjected you to. And then there's the false positives on these tests, which they suddenly will say, because these tests are often interpreted. It's not like there's a black and white on these things. Many of them are interpreted, like a pathologist will be looking at the cells under a microscope and deciding if they look cancerous or not, or that's what pathologists do. I mean, they take a biopsy, they send it to some doctor who looks at it under a microscope and sees if it looks like pathologic tissue that he knows, and then he gives it a diagnosis. And he could be wrong. I mean, it's just a guy,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry, Sydney, though. It is that time.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also, check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right, welcome back. Last segment here tonight. My how time flies when you're having fun and learning. Sydney, I just really enjoy having you here. You are a wealth of information, so thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us. And we were last segment. We were talking about basically how we can be better patients to assist in our healing path if we do go to doctors and, take drugs and things like that. How can we be a better patient? How can we take a more active role in our health care and, survive the medical system, so to speak?
Well, I wouldn't call you a patient. I mean, I think that's putting yourself into the dependent situation.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't think you want to think of yourself as a patient. I think you want to think of yourself I mean, assuming you're able to think of yourself and you're not like unconscious. Your family members should be able to do this, but you have to think of yourself as that you're in a place where you need something, and the doctors are contractors who are going to provide you with a service that you need, and you need to stay in control over what they're doing. And you can't just, like, if they were redesigning your you had somebody coming over to take care of your house, and you had a bulldozer, and you're not going to just leave him alone to decide what he's going to do to your property. You're going to be there every bit of the way saying, wait a minute, don't go there, go here, I want this and I want that, and gee, I don't like what you're doing there. And I mean, you want to be in control over your environment. Well, you want to be in control over your body. And when these doctors are coming and making suggestions, they're making them from a medical perspective, which is not necessarily yours, and it may be in conflict with yours. In fact, the conflict of interest in medicine, there's so many of them. The first obvious one is they get paid when you're sick, not when you're well. So they have very little investment in telling you how to stay healthy. And when you're there, like they could be just as corrupt as a mechanic. They're very much like mechanics. And you know, if you don't know what they're doing, you're inviting unscrupulous ones to take advantage. And a lot of people are attracted to medicine because of the power over others that it gives them. It's not just and the money. You know, you have a profession that attracts power people, not compassionate people necessarily. Very few of them. Most, you know, compassionate people have a hard time going through the whole process, especially like I've talked about before with the animal issues that come up, the research and the animal experimentation and demonstrations, and then what you have to do to people, and just to even get to medical school, all the dissections and the killing, and it's like a process of desensitization. So usually not very sensitive people don't survive in medicine. The people who are desensitized, who can look someone in the face and say, you're going to die, or your mother's going to die, or something like this, or some terrible thing, and be able to do that. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person, and they have to be very self-assured. In fact, we were told in medical school, you know, I went to University of Texas medical branch at Galveston, and we were told, if you don't know the answer to something, just fake it. Never admit that you don't know.
Wow.
Because if you...
They told you that. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it's a show. It's a show.
Wow.
I mean, you're coming to the doctor for an answer, and if the doctor said, "Gee, I have no clue. This is really gnarly. You know, I have no idea. I'm going to send you to a specialist." That would be honest.
But at least lawyers do that. They're like, well, I don't know. That's why I have these 400 books here. Hang on, I'll get back to you. Let me look at that.
I know, but doctors want to be like on the spot, and they have to be, and they don't really, you know, you got to remember that doctors aren't really thinking for themselves. They're following protocols. You could almost replace them with a machine easily by just plugging in the symptoms, and it'll give you a drug to treat the symptoms. I mean, that's what a doctor does. And that's why I left medicine. I mean, it really wasn't asking, it's not dealing with the whole person in any shape or form. Their reality, their lives, the psychological aspects of disease, which could be a major cause of the problem, is your head and what your attitudes are, because your lifestyle sucks so badly that you make yourself sick, and literally.
Yeah, they never even ask you about your lifestyle. They're just like, okay, what are your symptoms? Oh, here's a pill.
Their lifestyle is terrible. I mean, what does a doctor do all day? He's like, either he's sticking his finger in somebody's orifice, or he's, you know, looking down a pussy throat, or he's dealing with people coughing and complaining, and you know, all this type of stuff day in, day out in an artificial environment, dealing with chemicals all the time, dealing with just people feeling sick. Who wants to deal with sickness all the time? That's so that's why they pay these guys so well, because nobody wants to deal with this. But we created a profession that is it preys on people's ignorance. It keeps people ignorant, and once you're ignorant and fearful and helpless, you know, you're working with somebody who's attracted to managing ignorant, fearful, helpless people. That attracts some good people and some really bad people. And unfortunately, the really bad people are really aggressive, and they rise to the top, and they're the ones that like control the medical community and the industry, and they're profit oriented. They don't care about people, and they know they got everybody by the balls. So they charge you what they want, and what are you going to do? So we're in a system like that, and you know, if you're unfortunate enough not to die in your sleep, you're going to be in a situation someday where you're going to be facing these people. And that's the sad, scary part. And one of the worst things about our culture and why we're bankrupting ourselves is that end-of-life care is the most expensive of a person's life. I mean, that's when you're like in the last couple of years of life, they throw everything at you. When you fall down and break a hip, they'll fix your hip. If you're having problems with your kidneys, they'll put you on dialysis. If you have heart problems, they might give you surgery if you're not too old. If you have this, that, they have a surgery and they'll have a drug. They'll prolong your death as long as you're billable. And then they'll let you go, finally. And, you know, you might be like, thank God I'm finally dying, or your relatives might say that or feel that way. But to medicine, you're really, you're a commodity. You're something that they can make money on and bill for as long as possible. And you need to know what they're doing to you, what they're saying, whether it makes sense or not. You need to keep on top of the side effects of all the drugs. And a good thing to ask, and I learned this from Robert Mendelsohn, who's dead now. He was a doctor who wrote Confessions of a Medical Heretic, a great book, fantastic book, just as relevant today. And I mean, he wrote about all the inaccuracies of medical tests, and one of the things you got to realize when you're taking tests is not only they can be wrong and misread and all of that, but you know, the test itself is it can give you problems, and it could lead you down a path of ruin in the medical community. A lot of the tests are unreliable. They're almost like a coin toss in a lot of these tests. And in fact, the unreliability of these tests make them really dangerous. Look at the prostate test that they recently told people, the PSA test, that you don't need to get them now. Men were getting these prostate screening PSA tests for an antigen, and they see if they had cancer. And if the test came positive, they were like put into surgery. And now they're saying, there's so many false positives that, you know, they were killing people. You know, and they ruined when they do surgery on the prostate, they do it through the anus, and they could really mess you up. So
you're saying the PSA levels aren't accurate either?
No, the PSA tests have been majorly questioned. Oh yeah, they've been doing so many unnecessary procedures based on that test. And people need to realize that we have tumors in us all the time that are being eliminated, and it's like part of life. And when you die and they do an autopsy and they see a tumor, they'll say you had these cancers, but they didn't kill you. I mean, people have these things in them that won't necessarily kill you. You'll die of something else. Your body lives with these things. So oftentimes when you get tested, and one of the worst things is to go for routine checkups, because it's like taking your car, a used car, to a mechanic and saying, find something wrong with this and let me know.
Yeah.
You bet you're going to have a big bill coming. And it's the same with doctors. You don't want to go for a routine checkup. You're asking for it, and they will find it. And, you know, if I wrote a funny skit in my book, The Doctor Is Out, about a woman. Have you read The Doctor Is Out yet? You should see that.
No, I would love to.
You know, I need to send you all of my books. We should talk off air sometime, because we've been talking about them so long, and I don't think you have them all, so I want you to have them.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, we're getting near the end time, and we've covered a big spectrum of issues. I think the bottom line is the time may come when you have no choice, and you have to really watch out for yourself in the medical world. It's like a minefield, but you can delay that time for a long time if you take care of yourself and think for yourself and listen to your body. And unless your body is into decay mode, like genetically you have a problem, or you're just getting old and you've abused yourself long enough that your liver doesn't work well anymore, and your kidneys aren't working well, and your heart's not working well, you can avoid that by living right and take control of your life.
And if you do find yourself in one of these situations, you know, in your routine medical checkup or whatever, don't be afraid to ask questions. Because I know in that chapter of my life, I kind of was. I felt really intimidated. So anyways, it is that time. Sydney, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, and thank you all for joining us here tonight. By the way, there are articles on his website I've been posting in the chat all night about what he's been talking about, and trusting your doctor, the medical establishment, the environmental health concerns in the first hour. So go to killerculture.com. But it is that time. Thanks again. We will see you all tomorrow night. Blessings and love to you all. SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Universities destroy knowledge. Governments destroy freedom. The major media destroys information. And religions destroy spirituality. I think there's more to know here.
What you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the money. Fairly simple thing happens to work. If you know anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
You're listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.